Hello YouTube, welcome back. I'm getting ready to get started on the next project. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be finishing up the infinity box that I started a couple months ago. What my plan is to take those few sheets of 3/4 foam board right there and essentially make like a facade, make it look like the front half of a mausoleum. So this way, when you look at it, you see the mausoleum, and then it looks like you're looking down inside of it and seeing that long hallway. I'm going to try to make this one look a little on the fancy side, and then obviously, weather it, make it look old and that kind of stuff. So, hope y'all enjoy this video, and let's get started. Okay, to kind of show what I'm up to here, hopefully you can see the lines pretty good. But what I'm going to do is obviously I'm going to have my opening right here for the infinity box. My plan is to do like a nice arch top piece right here. Maybe I could put a date or something like that right there on that arch portion. Then I'm gonna on the ends I'm gonna have kind of like a column kind of look with like a raised area. Either I'm gonna do the sides raised or I'm gonna do the center raised. I'm not sure yet. I'm still gonna decide on that one when I get to that point. I'm gonna do a block look in between the two raised up areas. Then the top is going to be cut at a stagger kind of deal, and then a curve, and that's going to go to the top of this column. When I'm going to have like a nice little decorative top piece, I'm going to do that on both sides. So I'm going to have essentially columns essentially on both sides, somewhat of a nice arch area in the middle here. I'm going to have a kind of like a block look in between them, and then at the very top, after this is all built up, I want to put something on the top here just to kind of give it like that last little bit of a decorative detail. But the next step is just to go ahead and start cutting all my pieces, cutting this out, and then start gluing it together. All right, to kind of show where I'm at the moment. I started work on the center section first. You see, I took a poo noodle. I fed it through my table saw to where I have it in essentially 4/4. There's one extra piece still. What that is, that's allowing me to put like a nice little round bevel detail around the opening in front of the infinity box. And I got this on right here. I have a couple 2x4s underneath the bottom to stiffen it up because it was kind of bowing a little bit too much. Now I'm getting ready to start working on making this first initial arch piece, and then after that, then I'll make all the cap stuff that goes on there, and then I'll get working on the sides and building these cap pieces. All right, to kind of show you where I'm at the moment, you can see I got all the pieces on. You know, essentially the part that's going to create like almost like my cap, essentially like the part that's capping the whole top of the unit here. Now I have a couple different ways I'm going to do this. Well, once I put my top piece on, that'll box everything in. One way is to mimic what I did here. That's why I made sure that this is the same height as this. So this way, if I want to run the half noodle or the quarter noodle around like the quarter round, I can do that. And then I might run a second detail down here just for a little extra detail. Or what I might do, depending on what I have, I might create like a cove coming out the bottom there. So I'll have something that'll come out the bottom and it'll kind of curve like this. And then when it curves, then I'll do a half poodle on the bottom right here to kind of create like a almost like a cove rounded look to it. So once I get this top piece on, then I'm going to do some experiment and see which direction I want to go, and then after that, then I just got to start working on that bottom piece. Okay, so I kind of split the difference between the two ideas. Um, I don't really have a way of really, giving this like a cove, kind of look. So I just gave it just a bevel, and now the next step is to put my rip the pool noodle right in half, and then have the pool noodle right here, and that's going to run and follow the shape of the whole thing all the way around. So I'm just going to put that on next, and then the top will be done. Then I'll be on to the bottom. All right, I just want to kind of show where I'm at the moment and kind of what's left. First off, I went ahead and I wanted to stand it up and put it up against my infinity box just to see how everything looks, as far as spacing. And I probably should have done that before I got this far along just to make sure my measurements good, and I didn't. But everything looks like it lined up pretty good. I like the way it looks, so we're good there. Pretty much some of the stuff that's left is just some touch-up caulking in a few areas and a few cosmetic items. And the cosmetic items consist of doing something up here to kind of top these off with something. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to use just yet. I don't know if I'm going to make something or if I'm going to try to find something at a store. But I got this to worry about. I'm going to build a step right here because since this is already kind of elevated, I want to kind of give it that look that it's kind of like steps. You're stepping up into this mausoleum. So I got to put something here. I'm going to just build another pad that won't be attached to it, but I'll just set next to it. I'm going to put a year right here to kind of reference a time frame. And my picture that I'm kind of using as a reference picture showed a piece up on top here that kind of looked like a little wrought iron piece kind of deal. I don't know if I'm going to do that just yet or not, but if I do decide to do it, obviously I'm going to have to do that prior to doing any kind of painting so I can make everything blend together properly. But overall, pretty much like the caulking is just, I got a few little gaps here. Some of my 45-degree corners I got to, do some touch up on and stuff like that. And whenever you're using this kind of foam that has the foil on it and you're feeding it through a table saw, you're always going to get stuff like this right here, like these little pieces that kind of flake off. So I'm just going to take some sandpaper and just go along all my edges and just take all that kind of stuff right there off. And then I'll also be removing all this foil as well. I left the foil on for the time being, so this way I didn't get any caulking on my styrofoam until I was ready to paint. So this will be the last thing to come off just before I actually do my painting. I wanted to kind of talk about real fast is these pieces up here. I was kind of talking in the video how I had to make a compromise on these. The reason I ended up going with the compromise is because outside of the old-fashioned technique where you take a piece of sandpaper, put it around something cylindrical, like say a PVC pipe or a paint can or something like that, I have no way of creating like that nice, concaved, you know, look on here. Not to mention with all these extra things, trying to make sure that all the joints line up properly without just throwing material away because I sanded it too much or that kind of stuff. Not to mention this piece right here, that's rounded. This was already a piece that was already kind of a complicated piece to make in the first place. Not only making it rounded, but then I had to make the 45 on there, make everything fit, and all that kind of stuff. So if I were to sit there and make this entire piece, and then I mess up on it with the sanding of it, then I have to throw it away and have to constantly keep making this piece. I really didn't want to have to do that. So essentially, I kind of went with kind of a more simple approach to it by just doing just straight 45s. But it also allowed me to tie the top and the bottom together with the two pieces right there. So I have the top and bottom. Then I have this nice little detail right here. Now on here, I put this extra little 45 on here to kind of hide my relief cuts. I know I made that mention in the video about relief cuts. Now, I'm sorry I didn't get a little more detailed into that, but essentially, like if you're trying to curve a piece of metal, like say you're making furniture or a speaker box, and you want to curve your wood or something like that around it, you make a bunch of relief cuts in there. And what that does, that allows you to take that material and bend it. And essentially all you're doing is you're just taking all those relief cuts and you're essentially like closing them up essentially. And that's essentially what I did here, but I kind of screwed up. And what happened is I put this piece on top instead of putting it behind here. So now you can see all my little relief cuts across here. I didn't want you to see all that. So I put this extra little bevel piece on here just to dress that up. But now that's on, I like the way it looks. It gives me that next level little, kind of look of a nice little detail on there. But I didn't have to do that up in these ones because I put this in front of the curved metal. So I didn't have to worry about it up here because I knew it was all going to be flat. But pretty much all the stuff now, like I said, is a little bit of sanding, a little bit of caulking. Finish these up right here, and then I'll be getting close to being ready to start painting this. Okay, to kind of show where I'm at this moment, I wasn't able to find anything at the store that I liked for that top piece up there. So I just made something real quick. I just took some more of that pink foam, 45'd it, kind of pyramided a little bit, kind of tying it into this again. And right now, Hobby Lobby is starting to put out their Christmas stuff. So all those they're just large Christmas ornaments, nothing special. It was a 3-pack. I just made sure 2 of them were smooth and didn't have any glitter on them. So this way, when I paint them, you didn't see that. I still got to put some numbers on it for the date. As far as the pad that I'm going to put down here, I'm not going to actually build something instead. I have a few of these, so I'm going to put some of those in front of it. And you'll notice that on the edges, the corners here, I put some foil tape. The reason I'm doing that and putting a concrete thing here instead is because the one I did a couple years back, even though I had it off the path, people still were kind of walking out to it because they kind of wanted to look at the hallway a little bit. So this way, if anybody kind of does walk up to it and say some, like a kid or something steps on this right here, at least it'll be somewhat solid. Hopefully they don't step on that part. And if they kind of put their hands up against it, I want a little extra protection on the corners. So I just added some foil tape to the corners just for a little extra protection. That's pretty much all that's for. But I'm at the point now where, like I said, just some numbers and start painting. All right, I decided to make that wrought iron kind of looking fence at the top. I figured go big or go home, I guess, because what I'm going to be attempting to do is take this piece of Lexan right here, create an arched kind of looking sign with the scroll kind of thing on the top. So I've taken a piece of cardboard, cut it all out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to do this a couple different ways. Well, first I'm going to take a little hot glue, put a couple of little hot glue in a couple little spots. I'm going to try to trace it with the marker. If that doesn't seem to be working, then I'll mist spray paint over it. And obviously any area that doesn't have paint is obviously going to be the area that this was covering. So obviously that's the part that I won't be cutting out. And in just about every Halloween display I do, whether it's a haunted house, a cemetery, a pirate theme, whatever I do, I always have my name somewhere in there. It's almost like a hidden Mickey kind of thing, I guess you could say. It's a little silly, but it's kind of something I've been doing for years. But the biggest question is one, is this going to work? 2, am I going to be able to get it cut out to make it look good? And 3, let's see how this turns out. All right, well, that part's done. The next step is I'm going to take my Dremel right there and just do a little refining. You see my O is not super pretty looking. Every time I spin around with the jigsaw and stuff, I'll slowly wiping my lines off, and I followed the wrong line from when I was originally drawing everything out. But I'll go ahead and touch all that up. But you'll notice how I switched that foam block. And the reason I did that is because even though this is that polycarbonate plastic, this is stuff they use for race car windshields. It's pretty durable stuff. But when you get into these old fine points right here, you can still break them off. So what I was doing is the foam was keeping it from the jigsaw pushing downward on it. And then by the base of the jigsaw, it's helped keeping it from pulling it back up. So it's keeping it nice and rigid while I was cutting it. So just a little bit of refining. I'll put the little side pieces on, paint it black, and then I will start painting the front face, and then I will age both of them at the same time. All right, I got the sign all done. I think it came out pretty good. Definitely was a lot of fun trying to cut that all out with the jigsaw and then do a little bit of refining. Since I had to refine the O a little bit, it's a little thinner than the rest of them. But I didn't want to sit there and be really messing with all the letters, so so I didn't mess it up and potentially have to start over, which I'm not sure if I would really want to start over, to be honest with you. But I got it all together. I got it all painted. I'm gonna put the first layer of paint on the mausoleum. I'm gonna let both these dry overnight. Then tomorrow I'll put them together, and I will get ready to start the aging process and hopefully get this one finished. Hello YouTube. So the next morning, I'm getting started on the sign. The more I thought about it last night, the more I thought, with the O being such a drastic difference from all the other letters, was going to drive me nuts. And I admit it, I'm one of those people. It's got to be as close to being the same as possible. So what I'm going to do to kind of correct this problem is I have some of that flexible polywall stuff. I've used it on a couple props in the past. I just recently used it on the animated coffin prop. Essentially what I did is I cut a piece to fit the O in the back. I have it glued on there really good so it doesn't move. And then I measured it out to make sure I had the same distance from here to this little inner wall thing that I have sitting in here for the moment. So now it's going to be the same size letter, or at least within like a 16th of an inch. So what my plan is by having this in here, I'm creating essentially a trough. I'm going to go ahead and completely fill this trough full of hot glue and essentially let it self-level itself, because hot glue, as long as it's really hot, it'll kind of self-level. And then I'll just make sure it's as smooth as possible. Then I'll pull this piece out, and then once that piece is out, you'll see the O. Once it's painted black and 8 feet in the air, you won't even really notice that. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that first, and then I will get this mounted up on top of the prop and start finishing up the painting. All right, I think that turned out pretty good. Like I said, you're not going to see that fine line when it's 8 feet in the air. Plus, once I start putting the brown on there to kind of give it like that rusty wrought iron kind of look. So I think that worked out pretty good. Now I'm going to go ahead and install it on the prop, and we'll start our aging process. All right, here we are. I got it on top. It's kind of a little hard to see because it's in the shade a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and start the process. Now the reference picture I'm using shows a lot of brown on this particular one. I'm still going to be using some black in some of the key areas, and I'll probably have some greens in, like the areas where stuff will collect. But there's going to be a lot of browns on this one, so let's get started. All right, now to go ahead and just let it sit out here and dry for a little bit. Then I will bring it into the shop. I'll put it back in front of the infinity box, and we will see the final outcome. All right, so here's the finished outcome. I think it come out pretty good. Kind of like what I was talking about in the reference picture. There's a lot of browns and blacks and stuff like that on here. I think, and a lot of it was really mostly concentrated here and here. And obviously that's due to, like you say, water and dirt and all that stuff. We run down this arch, kind of hit here, splash, run down this area, and then this one because the curved roof, maybe run down here. So it showed a lot of excess, on either side of like this column, and then that, that portion right there. So I did that on both sides, made sure those were definitely well highlighted. Then obviously I added the greens to the bottoms where you normally would see, green, where it would kind of grow in a few areas, and then some browns to, simulate, dirt buildup and, things like that. The wrought iron piece, I think, came out pretty good. For some reason in the camera, it's picking up a lot of the brown. To the naked eye, it actually has a little bit more better balance than that. But overall, I think that came out pretty good. It definitely was a little bit of a pain cutting all that out, and I really don't know if I ever want to do another one. But I'm glad I did this one for this one, because I think it really just added that last little bit of detail to it. I'm pretty happy with that. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shut the lights off and kind of show you what it looks like with a little ambient light. and then kind of show what I'm doing with the interior a little bit, because I'm kind of messing with the lighting with that as well. Okay, here we are in the dark. I got the green light on it for now. Not sure if that's the color I'll be using when it's actually in the display. A lot's going to play on all the extra ambient light that's kind of floating around. If one, I'm going to need any extra light, it might be lit up just enough alone with the ambient light. Or if I do got to add some, that'll be obviously determined once it's fully set up and I got all my lights and everything going. But for now, with the green light on there, I think it definitely looks pretty good, pretty creepy. But one thing I'm talking about, like where I'm talking about the lighting on the interior. When I originally built it, the first video, I just put a green light in there and just turned it on just so you can see what was in there. But obviously, that just looked like a giant green lit up box with some candles in there. Now, that's not really the look I'm going for. I really want it more like the candles are creating the illumination inside there and not so much an alternative light source. So essentially what I'm doing here, let me get a little closer, is you see I got a piece of cardboard on the top here that I'm blocking the light. Now what I'm doing is I'm making it to where the light is still shining across up here, so I'm getting a glow from there. But then the holes, what they're doing is they're actually making it to where the light is kind of being projected somewhat at an angle here. So what it's doing is it's shining more towards just the sides only, and just a little bit on the bottom, but not the entire bottom. It's got a little shadow right here. So it's kind of giving the look that the candles are doing all the work and not so much an alternative light source. Now I'm kind of tinkering with it a little bit, trying to see if maybe I need to make the holes a little bit bigger or whatnot, or elongate them just to kind of get the look I'm going for. Right now I'm kind of happy with it, but that's essentially what I'm doing with the interior, to kind of give it the look that the candles are really doing all the work and not so much an alternative light source. But overall, I think actually building this face on here was definitely a good choice. It definitely turned this prop into a completely different kind of prop. Definitely adds a little mystery, a little curiosity, a little creepiness. Especially you get a little kid walking past, you're gonna be looking at that thing, thinking, how deep is that hallway really, kind of thing. So I think it's definitely going to do really well in my display this year. You have to leave me a comment, tell me what you think. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe. As always, thanks for watching.